All right, hello everybody. Saluton al cioi. That is Esperanto for hello everybody. The digital library that I made for this final project is the Esperanto Digital Library, and this will be my short little presentation on what I did for that. All right, so what is Esperanto? Esperanto is a constructed language, so much like Lord of the Rings Elvish in Lord of the Rings or Dothraki in Game of Thrones. Esperanto is a constructed language, meaning it was invented. And it was invented by the man you're seeing in the picture on this PowerPoint slide in black and white, and there's a statue of him. His name was Zamenhof, and he's a Polish Jewish man from the 1800s who lived in a time in Poland where there was a lot of different languages being spoken, and there was a lot of people tended to stick within their language communities, and that created a lot of isolation and tension between the groups. And so he wanted to, and his vision was to create a language that kind of bridged these divides. So Esperanto is an international auxiliary language, which means that it's supposed to be an international second language that people can learn. Has very, very simple grammar. It doesn't have any exceptions to the grammar, very regular. And people can learn this language for trading, commerce, for traveling, and people can communicate easily and still keep their first language. Esperanto borrows a lot of grammar and vocab from other languages. Most of its vocab comes from Romance languages, but there is a lot from other languages, and there are grammar rules that are taken from different languages as well. An example of this is it has a nominative case, which is something very common in Slavic languages. I'm not very familiar with German. I think German has a nominative case, but I'm not that sure. Esperanto also now has a vibrant community that has a lot of translations of modern works. There's radio stations, there's magazines, there's lots of international, national events, and a lot of original literature. All right, so now that I got the history of Esperanto out of the way, let's talk about how I sourced and I got my items for the collection. So I've been studying Esperanto now for about 2 years, so I have a collection of websites and databases that I go to that provide me a lot of poems and short stories and books, things like that. When I was originally looking at these websites to pull and harvest materials for this collection, I was finding that a lot of them didn't provide very good metadata. They would have often the author's name and the title, but it wouldn't really go beyond that. So I found it a lot more higher quality materials off of websites like archive.org, Library of Congress, and WorldCat. Those are the 3 areas that I pulled from for this digital library. I also used URLs, websites that are from really popular Esperanto websites that I just linked to, and that was easy enough. So I used all the different types of file formats that were required for this assignment. The majority of my materials are in the PDF form. I have 2 videos, I think, that are included in the collection, and I heard that some people had problems with larger videos, so I made sure to pick really short videos for the collection, so I didn't run any problems with having them up. And then I have 1 MP3, which is a clipping of a Esperanto radio station broadcast. I didn't run into many problems with copyright. Most of my items are in the public domain. I pulled a lot of items from early on in the Esperanto movement. A number of the items I included were items from or written by Zamenhof himself, and Zamenhof died in 1907, so that was over 100 years ago. The websites that I included are linked, so they're copyrighted, but that's fine. I included them because I just linked the website. A couple of the materials had copyrights on them that allowed people to distribute and copy them. You just couldn't make changes to them. And one item, which was the MP3 I included, I argued for fair use to be able to use that. Thinking about who the collection is made for, there's a big variety of people that could be interested in Esperanto that this library could be built for. That could be from Esperanto enthusiasts, linguistics that are just interested in languages. Although one point I would make is that although some of the materials are good for people that are initially getting exposed to Esperanto and learning the language of Esperanto has evolved and changed over time. And because a lot of the textbooks and dictionaries are very old, they're not up to date, and they wouldn't be good for new language learners. I wanted the theme of this digital library to encompass the story of Esperanto's growth, both internationally and historically. So I wanted to include items that were old and items that were new, and items in a variety of different languages. So to reflect that, the suggested topics I had chosen were 7. I had resources that were produced by Zamenhof. I had resources that were bilingual in German, Portuguese, Urdu, which is the Pakistani language, I hope I'm saying that right, Yiddish, magazines, which play a very important role since the very beginning historically. There's still a lot of Esperanto magazines now, well, really more than ever, and videos, which is a very modern way that Esperanto culture is thriving. I didn't change much with the default for the field names for the metadata. A couple ones that I really wanted to include and I put in there was the field other title. A lot of the resources the titles were either in German, Portuguese, Yiddish, or in Esperanto. And because my library is geared more towards, it's geared towards English speakers. So I wanted to be sure to include an other title that would translate it into English if the title wasn't already in English. I also put the field name translator because a lot of the works could have a creator but also translator. And besides that, I didn't really change very much. For the evaluation of my digital library, I have 3 main points that are important to me for the process of evaluating it. And that would be on user satisfaction with the library, the interface's usability with users, and the quality of the content. In my paper, I talked about using the Think Aloud focus groups and asking questions and prompting them as they're going through the content. And I also talked about the administrative tools in Content DM with seeing how popular things are and how many views certain items are getting, and as more of a quantitative data point. So for my final PowerPoint slide, I just wanted to quickly talk about the design of my digital library. So here's a picture of my digital library, the Esperanto Digital Library. The banner is designed to look like the Esperanto flag. And one thing I'll point out about the home and the about page is I didn't really care much for the side scrolling browsing tool that's default on Content DM. My thinking is that if the library gets big with a lot of items, then it kind of seems like that would be cluttered and not a very effective tool. So I'd rather just have like an image there that kind of adds visual interest. Besides that, I don't really have much to say because everything else is pretty standard to the requirements of the assignment. I got my about the collection, little blurb. My frequently asked questions is up there, and the content is up there, or contact is up there too. So thank you for watching and have a good summer. Bye.